think of this. Think of any storage facility that you are all aware of seeing in your neighborhoods and your areas. And this is what this was. The garage doors are actually on the other side. So we're on sort of the back side of it right now. And if you look through some of the debris and some of the things that people have stored here, that's where you can see the garage doors. If we walk down a little bit, I mean, we just see parts of people's lives, stools, pots, pans, things that people had stored, obviously. And as Jordan and I move around through the debris, we're going to be careful because there are a lot of nails from the roof coming down here. And that's one definite danger with people trying to get through some of this debris. But as we come down here to one of the other storage areas on the end, you can see all of those paint cans. This was actually a business. Some young men, I would guess them to be in their 30s. I was talking with Austin Siegel and Brady Mueller. They run Quality Coating Enterprises, and it's a paint contracting company. They have about 15 employees, and one of them, believe it or not, was inside this very storage unit right before the storm hit yesterday. Brady was telling me about it earlier.
Yeah, he clocked out on his time card at 1:45. I think it hit like 1:50, 1:52. So we were just extremely happy blessed that he made it out.
Because he would have been literally in the middle of everything there?
He would have been, yeah, in the middle of all that rubbish over there. So it wouldn't have been good.
Brady said they are just blessed that he's okay, that he got out. And some of that debris I was just showing you, take a look at how it's all just been thrown up against the next business over. This is the backside of a strip mall that's right next to it. Emily, it really is just so difficult to see all of this and then realize that we have no serious injuries. It's amazing that nobody was seriously injured in this tornado yesterday.
That is incredible, Denise. And for people like me, born and raised in the Midwest, we're used to seeing that type of thing, but not so much in your neck of the woods. Can you talk about just how rare of an occurrence this is and a little bit more about the storm that brought that system in?
Absolutely. I, like you, was born and raised in the Midwest. I'm used to being around tornadoes, but people in this part of the country are not. This is only the second tornado that we've had hit in recent history in the last few decades. And this area is about an hour outside of Seattle. So, you know, we've got the mountain ranges here. We're used to some very windy weather being right off of the Pacific Ocean as well. We had a lot of winds come through on Friday. I personally lost power at my house for about 13 hours on Friday night into Saturday morning. But this is an area that they're just not used to it. And again, as you mentioned, Emily, the Midwest people and people who are used to having tornadoes, they're used to also getting warnings. There were no warnings here. People didn't know that they should have sought shelter in the bathtub. We talked to another woman who said she knew what to do. She went right to her bathroom and she sat there. So then we had searchers out all night long as well, trying to figure out whether or not anyone was trapped in areas like this, because again, had that employee Tanner been here when the storm hit, he would have been trapped, and it could have been hours or even days before anyone would have found him. So searchers were out with dogs all night long. I think you can probably hear a chainsaw in the background here. Brady and Austin, the owners of this business, they've got U-Hauls coming. They've got a big backhoe coming because they've got a lot of work to do to get their livelihood. This is how they earn their living, and they've got a lot to do to get all that back going, Emily.
Oh my gosh, Denise, I did not know that detail about not having a warning and having that context to the story. Really unbelievable that no one was hurt. Denise Whitaker, thank you so much for helping us out today and bringing us that report. And of course, that storm system now moves to the east, bringing a lot of rain and severe weather to different parts of the country, expected to combine with another system. Let's go to Ginger for the very latest on your forecast.
Emily, thank you so much. Gravity in the weather forecast as we head into this weekend because everybody's traveling, or a lot of people are traveling. So let's go ahead and start with the video out of Washington State, because really impressive how strong the tornado there. They do get them, but they don't average a ton, 2.5 average per year, and that county has actually only ever had one before in recorded history. So this one will be much stronger than what that original one was. I want to show you here the damage from that tornado. They'll do the survey, so you'll get a better idea of what happened. They'll likely end up being something like an EF2, but we'll wait until the National Weather Service gets out there. This storm also, quite a bit of snow. You get a little bit of elevation and you get all that power from this storm, and you are going to get a foot of snow in 2 days as they did at Stevens Pass. Now it's going to kind of merge together with a southern storm, and that's why we've got flood watches up from South Georgia right through the kind of Big Bend of Florida. into the mid-Atlantic. We're talking about flood watches for the entire state of Delaware, parts of Maryland, New Jersey, Philadelphia is included. And timing-wise, it's going to go like this. Thursday's the day when most people are traveling, and it will start out wet for I-10 if you're traveling there through the Panhandle. Then severe storms are in the forecast, especially for South Florida, so from Orlando to Fort Lauderdale, down into Miami. And up along the coast, it's going to be the heavy rain through the morning Friday. If you have any plans to travel I-95, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, you could end up seeing 1 to 3 inches, locally 4. So that's where you could see even some ponding on the roadways and some slowdowns if you are traveling when everybody else is on Friday. Emily?
All right, Ginger, of course, happening as so many people, millions of people, in fact, are hitting the roads and taking to the skies. Let's head to the airport. Our David Curley is at Dulles Airport in the D.C. area. And David, can you tell us more just about how many, the sheer number of people that are traveling? This always surprises me.
First of all, we have moved. We are now at National Airport, which is Reagan National Airport, right next to D.C. 45 million Americans expected to travel, and the holiday period starting today, according to the airlines. The busiest 2 days, tomorrow and Friday. But let's go back to what Ginger was talking about, that weather storm that is coming here to the East Coast. It's expected to be rain. The airlines say they can handle it. So then the question is, here at TSA, as I mentioned, 45 million, that's about a 5.2% increase over last year. That's 2.3 million additional travelers. So what TSA is telling us is that they have added officers at these checkpoints to try and get people through. So we are at 11 something Eastern here. This is a pretty long line, actually, for this time here at DCA. But I can tell you, I would pick the last person in the line and tell you they're not going to wait much more than 10 or 12 minutes to get through this. So we spent some time with TSA today, and they said, don't forget, there are new rules. If you haven't traveled for a while, all large electronic devices now have to come out of your bag, not just the laptops. So that means anything, iPad, any of those bigger electronic devices have to come out, and the reason is they have intelligence that bomb makers are trying to put explosives into those electronic devices. Also, you may be asked to take your food out of your bag. That's because it can mask something in your bag. So different rules if you haven't flown for a while. TSA believes they can handle this extra load. The airlines say they can handle the weather, so let's hope that everybody gets home for the holidays, Emily.
Yeah, we certainly hope so, David. And we talked to you yesterday in Florida, so I know that you've been through security in the last 24 hours or so. I'm curious how long you waited, and then do they have any predictions about, say, if you're in the thick of it tomorrow traveling home, about how long you might wait in that TSA line?
So I talked to the TSA, the guy who runs TSA out of Dulles this morning, and he says he expects 10 to 15 minute lines. 20 is what he tries to get to. Anything 20 and less, they're happy. So that will be the big question, is are they able to move people through? And at this point, it looks like it's working. Don't forget, if you're traveling, remember what the rules are. Be ready when you hit that checkpoint. Have the stuff out of your pockets, be ready to go, and you'll get through a little bit quicker. We'll all get through a little bit quicker.
All right, thank you very much, David Curley. Nobody wants to be the one behind somebody who has their coat on, their laptop still in their bag, all that stuff. So you got to be prepared as you approach the line. All right, thanks a lot, David Curley, for us at Reagan National. Okay, so if you're packing up all your stuff, hopefully maybe you ship some gifts home instead. But the race to do that, to get all those holiday shoppers, to get the procrastinators especially, to be able to deliver all that stuff on time, really heating up this year. So our Rebecca Jarvis talked to some of the shipping companies about what you need to know in this final stretch before Christmas.
Hey, Emily. So here at FedEx, they are shipping out twice as many packages this week as they would on a given week. 95 million packages total going out around the country this week for that holiday sales rush. You've got Amazon extending its shipping deadline to today. So if you want to take advantage of that free 2-day shipping, at Amazon and you're not a Prime member, well, today is your final deadline, Wednesday, December 19th. Tomorrow is the big deadline. If you're doing Walmart or Target shopping, they are also offering free 2-day shipping. At Walmart, there's a minimum order of $35, no minimum at Target. Meantime, if you're going U.S. Postal Service, shipping it yourself, that priority mail deadline is also tomorrow, Thursday. But here at FedEx, you can really be a procrastinator. Yes, they have deadlines earlier as well if you want to save some money, but in 30 markets here in the United States, you can actually do same-day shipping now with FedEx on Christmas Day. Yes, but you have to call them, and there are additional fees, of course, so it really does pay to get ahead of things. All of the workers here at FedEx, they've hired more than 55,000 seasonal workers to help take care of this part of the year, this time of the year, and they're all working around the clock. They've been here on the line, getting everything ready to go, putting it in these trucks. There are 75 of them here at this location in New York. And I talked to the woman who runs things here. Her name is Nanette Malbranch. She runs this entire facility and a number of them throughout New York City. And she gave me some really good advice about making sure that you get your packages there on time. Of course, we always hear the one about getting started early. But if you're not doing that, and who is, I'm not always good about that myself, there are a couple of things you can do to really make sure that package is in the best possible shape it can be when it gets to a place like FedEx. So first of all, no string on the outside. Make sure you use good packaging tape. String can get caught up in these machines as they're getting sorted. So keep the string off those packages. And second of all, put the address both on the outside as well as the inside of your package. That way, if anything happens to it in transit, you've always got that safety net of the inside address in your package. And of course, in the absolute worst case scenario, Emily, there's always the gift card option. That's what I do when I am sending out things on Christmas Day. You go to the website, you send it, it usually goes out via email, and people are pretty happy about it too. Emily?
All right. Thank you very much, Rebecca. No one will ever know the difference, so you plan to do that all along. Our thanks to Rebecca Jarvis. Let's turn to Washington now, where we are another day closer to that looming government shutdown. And really at the heart of this battle is the border wall. The president so insisted on that, really digging in his heels about this as well. He tweeted this morning, Mexico is paying indirectly for the wall. Here's the tweet: through the new USMCA, the replacement for NAFTA. That's his deal here. Even though he's demanding this $5 billion from Congress to pay for the wall, he's saying in the end, Mexico is really paying for it. Now, the White House, of course, hasn't offered up any evidence to explain that or to support that claim. Let's go to Karen Travers for us to break it all down at the White House. Hey, Karen, thanks for being with us. Can you explain a little bit more about this? And we're hearing that Mitch McConnell now has a possible solution to avoid a shutdown.
Right now, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has introduced a short-term funding bill that would avert a shutdown at the end of the week and fund the government up until February 8th. Now, the question is, will the president get behind this? Will he support it and sign it in order to avert that shutdown at the end of the day on Friday? This morning, White House counselor Kellyanne Conway says he'll take a look at it, but did not commit his support to it. About that point on the Mexico issue of paying for the wall, even Republicans yesterday, Emily, and today are saying that's just not going to happen. Mexico is not paying for this wall. It would be taxpayer money, of course. And the president, as you say, has been insisting on $5 billion. Democrats say they'll put $1.6 billion for border security. And now the White House is getting a little creative with their math, trying to figure out a way to make up that several billion-dollar difference. They say the president's going to ask cabinet secretaries to look for areas in their own budgets that can be put towards border security and, of course, the wall. Democrats say you can't just take money that's been appropriated for one thing and apply it to another. So expect a fight if they do decide to go down that road.
And Karen, another issue where it seems the president has one stance and some Republicans already saying that they have another. Syria, some big news coming out of the White House about Syria today.
And not just the White House or the president battling with Republicans on this, the president almost at odds with members of his own administration. President Trump tweeted today that we have defeated ISIS in Syria. My only reason for being there, certainly suggesting that he was planning to withdraw troops, something that we were told by U.S. officials he would announce today. today. Well, there has been blowback very quickly to this expected announcement from the president. And White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders, Emily, put out her own statement and did not say that there is going to be a full withdrawal of about 2,000 U.S. troops. Sarah Sanders says that ISIS was very powerful and a dangerous force, and the United States has defeated the territorial caliphate. But she does talk about the next phase. She says that this U.S. troops will be coming home as there's a transition to the next phase in the campaign, but that the U.S. is ready to re-engage whenever necessary. A lot of confusion here on this, Emily. Not sure what exactly the president's going to announce. And as we say, there's already a lot of pushback from Republicans who say this is not a good strategy, that the administration shouldn't be doing this right now.
Lindsey Graham, that tweet up on the screen right now, who has been really buddy-buddy with Trump these last several months, tweeting there, the withdrawal of this small American force in Syria would be a huge Obama-like mistake. You've got to think that comparison, Karen, is not going to sit well with the president.
Well, back in April, when the president first signaled that he wanted to pull U.S. troops out of Syria, and there was a lot of questions about it at the time, it was notable because President Trump, as a candidate, and even before his campaign, was very critical of President Obama for talking about troop withdrawal and talking about troop levels, because the President Trump said that was signaling something to the enemy, and he vowed to never do that. Now, we have a lot of confusion today as to exactly where things stand, what the president wants to announce, and what the Pentagon is ready to announce. Stay tuned. We'll see what happens later today. All
right, Karen, and one more question before we let you go here. Perhaps a bright spot when it comes to bipartisanship. Tell us about this criminal justice reform bill that it's sounding like both Republicans and Democrats could be supporting.
Yeah, 87-12. That was the vote last night in the Senate. We never hear numbers like that these days. This is the First Step Act, and it would be a very significant overhaul of criminal justice reform. Specifically, this gives judges greater latitude in sentencing for some nonviolent offenses. It also would reduce some mandatory minimum sentences, and the one thing the White House is really keying in on, it would provide job training for people in prison so that when they get out, they are less likely to get back into prison. This has been a very big personal project for Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law and senior advisor. He's been the one driving this legislation within the White House, really making a push to get the president on board and get this for a vote up on Capitol Hill. Jared Kushner's father, of course, was in prison himself over a decade ago, and Kushner has talked about how this is a personal issue for him as well.
Wow, personal touch there. All right, thank you very much to our Karen Travers. Another slow day at the White House. We appreciate your time. Okay, let's move on. We started the show out west. Let's head back to California. A really exciting development here that could potentially be the future and the solution to all of those traffic nightmares in places like New York, LA. Our Matt Gutman is in Los Angeles to tell us about a new tunnel from Elon Musk's company that really could change the game.
Hey, Emily. Well, we did get to go inside the tunnel. It was a tour. We were among the first to ever go inside it. Now, what they do is, it's really interesting. They attach what seem like training wheels on the outside of a Tesla, and essentially the car on autopilot drives inside. We did have a driver there, and it was a pretty bumpy ride. Elon Musk does say that this is a prototype. They're still working on it, and it will take some time. He says eventually it'll be as smooth as glass. Now, that was not our ride inside. It was like a roller coaster, and we only hit about 35, 40 miles an hour. Eventually, they hope that these tunnels can carry cars or allow cars to drive at about 150 miles. Now, what was interesting about the Q&A we had with Elon Musk is that the real, I guess, new invention here is not so much the conveyances inside the tunnel, not those cars. It's the tunneling system itself. Now, right now, tunnel systems are dug at a pace that is 14 times slower than the movement of a snail. And so what they hope to do is improve their tunneling digging systems by 15 times to make it just a little bit faster than a snail. He says that is possible. They're at the first generation. That will happen probably at the third generation. Now, why tunnels? Musk says because you can build so many layers. There's basically no limit to how many tunnels can crisscross a city like this. Obviously, bureaucracy is a major limiting factor. As he found here in Los Angeles, he said they had to go through, quote, like 8,000 regulatory bodies, had to get environmental approving, etc. It was not easy to do. But he does say that they're working on possible systems in Las Vegas and Chicago, along the eastern seaboard between Washington and New York, which ultimately, once his so-called Hyperloop is created, could take a car from Washington to New York in about 29 minutes or thereabouts. So if it works, it could be amazing. Apparently there's an elevator that will bring a car down to the tunnel level. There will be sort of on-ramp type things. Didn't exactly explain how the traffic would build up getting to that on-ramp and getting into the tunnel. That is obviously another factor that people are going to have to deal with at some point. May not be so easy either, but the concept itself seems to be one that might be workable in the future. Also, he said that there are a lot of benefits in terms of municipalities who they say have been knocking down the door. They say 5 to 20 municipalities a week have been asking them about doing this. Funders have been banging down their doors as well. He says lots of people want to jump on board. Again, we don't quite know if it's feasible, but he said it could also be used for utilities. You could do sewage lines, water lines, electricity, whatever, and it could be easily maintained. So there are a lot of practical uses for this if it gets underway. Of course, the one thing he didn't tell us is exactly when all of these tunnels could get underway or how long it might take. Obviously, that will happen at some point in the future. Emily.
All right, thanks a lot, Matt Gutman. Whatever the opposite of the sky is the limit, I want to apply to that story. That's going to do it for today's debrief. So glad to have you with us today. Got to remind you to join us for the briefing room. That's at 3:30 Eastern Time. Also, World News Prime coming up at 8 o'clock. And of course, be sure to download the ABC News app so you can get those breaking news alerts 24/7. I'm Emily Rao with the debrief, and we're glad to have you with us. Hope to see you right back here tomorrow.